Hello. Jump scare. I had to hop off previously because I had somebody walk into my house that I had to go talk to. So I got cut off a little bit after I had started after a minute or so. But for those of you that might be new to my page, my name is Molly. I'm a certified financial planner, and I have Money Sense with Molly, which is an education platform that I started at the end of last year, 2024, to help women learn about financial education in an unintimidating way from a person who actually has the background and the credentials to teach them. So I've been in the financial services industry since 2006 and have had my CFP designation for many years, 12, 13 years. So the CFP is kind of the highest designation in the industry, just in terms of on the advisor side. There are certainly other designations, but those can be more focused on analysts and things like trust advisors. But as an advisor, the CFP is kind of the top designation. So for today, I wanted to chat for a few minutes just about kind of concepts related to financial advising, the financial advisor field, and kind of talk a little bit about maybe some of the hidden things under the hood that they're not going to want to talk to you and share with you about, and were some of the catalysts for me to make the move that I did and leave the industry to start a platform like this. The first thing that I think is important for people to know about the financial advising industry is the actual way people are paid, and the fact that the fee structure can oftentimes be very challenging to fully understand. And frankly, can be quite expensive. So let's talk about it a little bit. When I was an active advisor, I was working with, I used to work with other professional consultants like CPAs with their clients, and we happened to be sitting in front of a CPA's client who had just sold a business and had like $30 million to invest. So we're having a conversation, and obviously, this is a very wealthy person. Any financial firm is going to want to manage that person's money. And when push came to shove, the fee that person was going to be paying was somewhere in the range for this asset management. So $80,000 to $90,000 every single year for a firm to, manage their money, right? And the person specifically said to me, so what am I getting for that? Like, that's a lot of money. This is like a pretty modest guy who just had a really successful business. And it was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. I don't think I would probably go for it either, because that's a shit ton of money. And lo and behold, he didn't end up, moving the money over. And it was kind of in that moment that it was just one of those cracks in the ice for me that I was like, yep, I am kind of on my way out of this industry, in this format at least, because I just was like, I didn't really care if he took his money and managed it himself, because I was like, yeah, I probably would do the same thing, because that's a ton of money and I don't know that I would pay it. Oh my gosh, I keep getting a million text messages while I'm talking. Sorry. So just the fact of the fees, right? And so this is a person obviously who had loads of money, right? Most people do not have that kind of money, me included, maybe someday. But the average American who actually engages with a financial advisor has anywhere between like $350,000 to $400,000 under management. Okay, so if you are a person on this live who has hired someone as an outside advisor, statistically, the average is around $350,000 to $400,000. If you are paying 1%, because 1% is kind of the standard, sometimes it's even up to 1.2 or 1.5%, depending upon how big your account value is. If we do some rough math and you're paying 1% on like a $400,000 account, that's $4,000 every single year. And now my daughter is texting me. That's $4,000 every single year that you are paying. And the way that it comes out is, number one, it's just automatically pulled out of your account, right? 98% of the time. Very rarely they will like invoice you, that you have to like specifically ask for that if you're going to have it invoiced. But it just gets pulled out of your account. So if you've got 400 grand there and the market does absolutely nothing, I mean, they're going to quarterly pull their management fee out. And as the account value goes up and down, it's 1% of whatever the account value is, right? So if you over time the account goes up, that dollar amount is going to go up too, because obviously 1% is going to be a higher amount coming out of a higher dollar account value. So $4,000 every year in this hypothetical scenario. And if let's say you're 45, you have maybe 20 more years to work. If you just do that math, that's $80,000, right? 4,000 times 20 more years, that's $80,000 in fees alone. And that's just like the base cost of the fee, right? Now, if you were to take that 4,000 and keep it invested in that account and, eliminate some of that advisor fee, if that $4,000 grows because it's invested, and let's say it averages around 7%, those dollars would end up growing to over about $164,000 a year. So when you put those two values together, you're looking at over, $240 some $1,000. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars that you would be losing because you're paying an advisor to manage your money for you. Okay. And the thing is that that's not the only fee that a lot of people are incurring. And I think a big message that I want to get through kind of in my platform is that I'm not saying completely it's horrible if you hire a financial advisor. I still have a lot of friends that are in the industry, and there are plenty of advisors that do a really good job, because the people that they are looking for have, really complicated tax and estate strategy or situations that require more elaborate planning situations, and they require that additional expertise from the advisor. But I'm talking about kind of the average Joe, right? The average family in America that doesn't have an estate tax problem, that doesn't have lots of tax mitigation attempts that they want to be looking at on a year by year basis. Just a regular family in the US, if they have this modest retirement savings managed, it's literally potentially costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. This also doesn't account for any other fees that could be in there. I mean, the advisor's fee is going to be pretty transparent. If you wanted help figuring out what you are paying, you can comment the word fee, and I actually have kind of a fee finder guide that I can send over to you. It's free, but it will help you kind of figure out what you're paying, because the management fee is one thing, right? And that is pretty transparent on your statement. But there also can be trading fees in accounts. There are expense ratios, which are the actual internal cost of the funds. And those are not very transparent. You really have to go digging for those. And every fund is different. So you might have some funds that have higher internal costs than others. Index funds and ETF funds have gotten a lot more popular in the last couple decades. Those are very low internal costs, which is great. But there are thousands of funds out there that have pretty healthy internal fund costs. So if you have hired an advisor and then they've put you into a portfolio that has funds that have expensive internal costs, you might be paying 1% to the advisor plus whatever that internal cost is of the fund. Maybe it's another 0.5%, maybe it's another 1%, which is very, very possible. So all in, now you're paying 2% per management for those particular dollars. And those the fund fees are not super transparent, and you just never really see them. Like on your statement, you'll see the advisor fee come out, it'll say management fee and it'll show you a debit, but it doesn't show you that on your statement from the funds. It's something that's really embedded. And so a combination of making sure your funds are not super expensive and then that advisor fee, those fees together can really be just really expensive. And then on top of it, other fees that can come up are, commissions. How does your advisor make money otherwise? Do they sell products where they get a commission? This can often come in the form of insurance products, annuities, life insurance, disability, long-term care. They will get healthy commissions for selling products like that. Now, again, a lot of those insurance products are often very needed, but I think there is a conflict there when it's not super transparent how people are getting paid on those. But yeah, insurance is a really important part. It's just something to be aware of as you're looking. So as I was in the field, that was one thing that just kind of bothered me, was just the overall price of what people were getting, because it's like, if you're paying this much, are you actually getting $80,000, $90,000, or even $4,000 worth of value? So to think about that, and everybody makes their own decision. If you decide that it is worth it because you don't want to think about your money and you're okay potentially losing, hundreds of thousands of dollars down the road because you just want to have it be out of sight, out of mind, that's fine, right? You get to make that choice. I just want to make sure people are aware of it. So analyzing what value you're getting is important. If you decide to continue to hire somebody as an advisor, think about what you are getting from them, because what typically happens, and again, we're talking about kind of the average American family. We're not talking about these big heavy hitters that have estate tax problems and more complicated scenarios that require further expertise. For the average American family, you might have left a 401k and rolled that into an IRA that now someone's managing for you. I mean, when you get into your 40s and 50s, you probably have gone to a couple different jobs, and you might have one or a couple former 401ks out there that you've rolled into an IRA and maybe given to like an Edward Jones person down the road. I don't know. To hire someone to manage your IRA is probably the worst thing from a fee standpoint, because IRAs, there's no tax implication. There's no tax management, right? It's like you don't pay any tax on IRA money until you pull it out down the road. So there's no, there's something called tax loss harvesting that is done in non-IRA accounts. And that's basically where it's a tax mitigation strategy, but it's only relevant in accounts that are not IRAs. It's in taxable investment accounts is where that strategy is helpful. And that's where advisors can sometimes bring value, although the robo-advisors like Betterment and Wealthfront do it just as well nowadays. But if they're managing your IRA, I mean, literally, if this is one of those smaller accounts, they are going to sit down with you. They're going to talk to you about your risk tolerance. What are your goals for this money? And then they're going to, and how much time do you have to let this money sit and grow? And then what they're going to end up doing is they're going to put you into some type of model portfolio that their firm and the analysts of their firm have put together. And then they're going to, so it might be a conservative, moderate, or aggressive portfolio. And then they're going to plop you in there. You might talk to them once or twice a year. The statements will come through. Maybe you have questions. Maybe they don't make a lot of sense. The statements, you're not getting a lot of responses from the statement in terms of like questions about the statements. And that's it, they're not really looking at it again, because what happens is the analysts in the back office of that firm, they're the ones that make the choices. They are the ones that actually pull the levers and make the trades to update the actual investment mix and this investment selection inside those model portfolios. The financial advisor is often not doing that for these smaller accounts. Can be true for much larger accounts. There can be a lot more hands-on management. But again, for the average American family, they're usually just going into these model portfolios. Because the hard truth is that a lot of these successful advisors don't really want the clients who have less than $1 million. Plenty of the people that I used to work with, their minimums are $5 million of investable assets. But they don't start there, right? So they start kind of at the bottom, and they have to build up to that level of clientele. And along the way, what they do is called client segmentation. And they, once they get maybe $100 million under management, they start to segment their clients, and they start to say, well, this tranche of people that have, $10 million to $5 million, those are my A clients. And then I'm going to do the 5 million to 2 million. Those are my B clients, or, whatever. And then they're going to section it out. And eventually what happens is you get down to the C and the D clients. And eventually those people either get pushed to like a junior advisor, or they get pushed to a call center where it's just more centralized and you don't get a specialized touch, but your fee is not going to change. So those bigger advisors, they don't really want to find these small accounts. They're looking for big accounts, but they have to start somewhere, right? And that's where I think so many people, especially women in the US, get overwhelmed, because they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm just going to trust this guy, and they'll happily take your $100,000 or $200,000. But what you're getting for the fee that you're paying is just not that much. And I think part of my catalyst of starting Money Sense was to try to bring light to that and say, that you don't need it to pay an advisor every year until your retirement. You just need a little bit more education, and that's what I'm trying to provide on my platform. So let's see, and so talking about, kind of why I started my platform. Number one, when you're in that industry, you are constantly pressured to keep finding new clients. So it's not even necessarily like you can just create this little bundle of clients that you really like and want to service well. There's constant pressure to just bring more and more and more in. So like every person that has money, you're like constantly figuring out like, well, what's their situation? Is there an angle for me to get in there and have a conversation with them about their money? And I wasn't into it anymore. I am not, I would rather be on the educational side. And the other thing that really tipped me over the edge related to education, compared to like hunting down a rich person, is we used to do a lot of 401k meeting education. So if your employer has a 401k, they usually hire an advisor to come in and educate the people, right? How often they're there or not is, to be seen. But I was that person that would go in and actually educate these people on the inner workings of their 401k and kind of what it meant to them when it came to their personal account. And I had a woman come up to me who had worked at this company. Like, it was a company that we had just taken over their 401k. She came up to me after one of our education sessions and she was like, this made a lot of sense. And this is the first time that any of this has ever been explained to me, as clearly. And she had, actually, this was in an email because she had left the education meeting and then looked at her statement and then emailed me. And she had been in cash. She had her money being taken from her paycheck into her 401k, and it was just sitting in cash. It was sitting in a money market. So it was not invested, and it had been like that for like 10 years. And she didn't know any better. Like, she just was not, we have given enough information or, in a effective way for her to know that that's not right. And I mean, she you could just feel it in the email that she responded back, that she was just kind of distraught. So between having experiences like that with regular people who just need to have some of this financial literacy, I mean, it is not rocket science, you guys. I have faith that everyone here in my community can do it. And I am happy and ready to kind of walk you through that step by step. But between having that experience with this woman after the 401k meeting and then comparing that to like constantly hunting down rich people, I just was like, nope, I'd much rather be over here helping, women like this. I actually have an education degree from college, which is funny. So I started as an elementary school teacher for 5 seconds, and then I actually quit about 4 months into my first year. Just wasn't the right fit. But point being, I've always really liked educating. And so that's kind of what prompted me to actually just take those skills and bring them to light in money sense. One other thing that really irked me throughout time is that I saw a consistent pattern of women sort of being, first of all, kind of talked over, I mean, like when you're in that industry as an advisor, you do a lot of just on the job training. So for the first many years, I was in meetings with more senior advisors, and then eventually I was that senior advisor. But it's interesting to watch. So many of those other advisors were men, right? And so it's very interesting to watch how they interact with the clients across the table. If there's a husband and a wife, I just kept catching it all the time where they're like talking only to the husband. And so I was like trying to go the complete opposite and be like, hey, wife, like, I know you're the one that is in charge here and should be in charge. But it just pissed me off over time. Like, I just was like, why are women like being ignored in these conversations? And why are women like my 401k friend not getting the education to know what to put their money in, right? Women are just sort of getting looked over, and it's really hurting them down the line. So those were all reasons kind of why I decided to make this break and start Money Sense. The solution that I have been working on and have kind of come to craft for my community, as I was thinking about, how do I take these 18 years of experience? How do I take what I know has been successful for clients that I've seen kind of go through a process with financial planning? How do I take that and bring that down to just a regular person that's through the screen with me? And the very first thing that we would always do when we make financial plans is we have to do due diligence to know what the hell a person has, right? Like, we have to say, if they come in and say, hey, these are my questions, I've got X amount of dollars I want you to manage, we have to say, great, okay, well, we need to know all this stuff about you before we can give you any investment advice, specific investment advice. And that process, whether you like it or not, is kind of the process everyone needs to go through if they're going to make good financial decisions with their own portfolios and with their own kind of family finances. So the way that I am bringing that to my community is through what's called the Clarity Calculator. If you comment the word calculator below, you'll get the link sent to you for that calculator. And what it is, because this data gathering process can sometimes be annoying, it can be overwhelming. I mean, it's a pain in the ass sometimes, because if you've gotten to my age or older, in your 40s and 50s, you probably do have accounts out there, right, from former 401ks or old bank accounts or whatever. I mean, you might kind of have a mess financially. You might just have stuff sort of spread all over the place. To actually get a good idea of where your starting point is and kind of have that foundation for making good decisions going forward, you need to do some due diligence to collect all that information. So it might be a pain in the ass sometimes, but I have created a step-by-step, process through the Clarity Calculator to really hold your hand through that, to make sure it's as, not overwhelming as possible. And to just really distill it down to bite-sized pieces. So if you comment calculator, you'll get the link right over to that. If you don't have a super sophisticated, or if you don't have lots of accounts out there, going through the calculator might take you 25 minutes. It might be quick. If you do have a lot of stuff out there that you just have kind of not tidied up over the years, it might take a little bit more time. But there's video modules in there to kind of give you step-by-step guidance. And I have gotten great feedback. I actually just kind of launched it a few weeks ago, and I've gotten really, really good feedback about the effectiveness of it. I have a highlight on my page that says Clarity Calc, and that is where you can find more information about it and some of the testimonials that I've gotten so far. But would love to have you go through it. It's going to help you make decisions financially with confidence instead of from a place of fear. It's going to help you know exactly where you actually stand financially, and it's going to help you spot opportunities and gaps. So you're going to be able to see everything that you own and everything that you owe in one place, and then you'll be able to make educated decisions about what are my priorities. Maybe it's debt pay down, maybe it's account consolidation, maybe it's bolstering an emergency fund. I don't know what the answer is going to be. And there's no way I can tell you what to do unless we have that due diligence and we've done that work together, done that work of you gathering that information. Because whether you have $10,000 or $10 million, this was the process that I would take all of my clients through before we could really get into a decision-making situation to move forward. So just wanted to chat a little bit today about what the financial industry is actually like. If you comment the word clarity, actually, I do have actually a life insurance calculator that if you comment calculator, you're going to get my life insurance calculator. But if you want the Clarity Calculator, that's confusing, I know. I have two calculators. One helps you figure out how much life insurance you need, and the other one is the Clarity Calculator. So if you comment clarity, you will get the Clarity Calculator. If you comment calculator, you're going to get my life insurance calculator, which maybe I'll change my keyword on that. Anyway, this is the process I would take everybody through, and just want to give you kind of a little bit of a peek of my thoughts about the industry and why I have kind of started Money Sense, and give you a little bit of knowledge about what's out there and what advisors don't typically talk about. So there we go. That should work for you, Diana. Okay, so I'm just gonna double check and make sure I didn't miss any comments. Saw lots of people join, which is great. Thank you. Okay, awesome. If you have any questions while you are looking through it, please don't hesitate to DM me. Again, there's a highlight on my page that actually shows you a visual of what this looks like, what this process looks like. Again, it could take you anywhere from 20 minutes to maybe a couple days, depending upon how, sophisticated or how complicated your situation is. But I have step-by-step videos in there, kind of some moral support to keep you going. And the best part about this is that this is not something you have to do all the time, right? I mean, this is something that you can update it once a year if you want. You might not even need to do that, but if you have never done this exercise of actually looking to see what's out there and seeing it all in one place, you really are not going to be able to make effective decisions about the best financial strategies for you to, you're welcome, Dana, the best financial strategies for you to actually make effective steps, take effective steps forward, right? So that's it for today. My kids are going to roll in the door here any minute, so I better button it up. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to DM me, and we will talk to you guys soon.